Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to week 6 of the 6-week webinar on Napoleon Hill's classic bestseller, Think and Grow Rich. Pardon me, my name is Steve Lundy with the frog in his throat, and I will be your humble host and presenter for tonight's final class. I can't believe that we're in the final night of the webinar. It's for me, it's just flown by, and we even had a couple of. I think we had a week extension there in the middle with because of the holidays. But I've really enjoyed taking you through this 6-week book study. I'm always surprised at the depth of the information in this book. As I've mentioned before, every time I read this, I peel another layer back on the book, and it's not that the information wasn't there, but as we pull from this book and apply it to our lives, we just become different people. And regardless of whether or not we're doing this or not, I think we can't help but grow. If we're not growing, we're going in the opposite direction, which is not the best thing to be doing. So I think regardless of what we're doing, we're always growing. And every time you read this book, you're able to pull you're in a different place and able to pull something different from the book. So I just get this feeling that even if I'm doing this at 90, I'll still have the same it'll still have the same impact on me. And I hope you all feel the same. So Rob, thank you for joining. Welcome. I think what I'll get people to do is just mute their mics so that we reduce the background noise. So let's get started. And before we do that, I'll do a quick review of last week's material to refresh everyone's memory, and then I'll tell you what. Let's go through the gratuitous host shot. So what I'll do is I'll refresh everyone's memory and then I'll tell you what to expect on this week's call. So last week we covered week 12, chapter 12, the subconscious mind, and we started off by discussing the power of the subconscious mind. And then I spoke a little bit about the role that faith plays in this part of our mind. But I also discussed the genetic and environmental programming that exists within the subconscious mind. We also talked a little bit about the subconscious mind as the godlike part, the concept of this being the godlike part of your being. After that, we discussed the methods of shutting off the flow of those negative impulses that are always flowing to this part of our mind through our conscious mind. We spent a few minutes talking about the 7 major positive and negative emotions that Napoleon Hill refers to in this chapter, and then we wrapped up that night by talking about how faith and fear make poor bedfellows. So it was a big week for sure, and tonight what we're going to do is we're going to discuss chapter 15, and that's the chapter that's titled how to outwit the 6 ghosts of fear. And we'll start off by gaining a clear understanding of what Napoleon Hill calls the 3 enemies. Pretty interesting stuff. We'll spend some time talking about the value of surrounding ourselves with right-thinking people, and I'll also share with you what is meant by the fact that it is your responsibility to accept or reject your circumstances. And then one of our last stops this week and in the webinar will be to discuss the fact that either you control your mind or it controls you. And of course, I'd like to remind everyone of you about the weekly training calls that will begin in the next couple of weeks. And this is sprung from this webinar, really, and our experience over the last 6 weeks. And it's going to encompass all of my curriculum as well as some additional teaching from that I've come across since my days with Keys to the Universe. And it will be given to our immediate team, and this is the NUMIS team, at no cost. This will be a product that I'll be selling on stevelundy.com, and it's going to be geared towards the network marketing industry, and you guys get in free by virtue of being part of Don's team and my team. And guess what? All of your downline gets this training for free as well. So what we're looking to do is show a spike in success in productivity within this little group, and my goal is to share this information with as many people as possible. And it's not network marketing information; it's information about about thinking, about an alternative way of thinking. So one of the things that I've come to realize is that in the courses that I taught, there's specific professions that seek out personal development, and one of the major ones was network marketing. I always had a majority of my class were entrepreneurs or people from the network marketing industry. So I'm not going to run from that. I'm going to embrace it, and in fact, I'm going to sort of cater to that industry with this training. So yeah, you get in free, and I'd like you to be excited about about that, and also really pump up your teams to get involved in this weekly training as well. And it's going to be a shorter training. It's going to be more precise. It's going to be small nuggets of training. So in a webinar such as this one tonight, I'll go through maybe that's sometimes 7 to 10 concepts that I'll dive into and we'll discuss. So the weekly training will consist of a single concept, and I'll be taking people through my entire curriculum, which takes you from what you've learned over the last 6 weeks here, spread out, of course, over a few more weeks. And then into the next logical step towards in your self-improvement journey is to understand your purpose. Some of you do, some of you are still searching, and to wrap a vision around that, and also to set short, medium, and long-term goals. That's the next logical step. We then move into the process of understanding the image that you hold for yourself. It's said that you can never outperform your self-image, the image that you hold of yourself. So it's imperative that you understand that and make adjustments where you see fit with that vision, that image that you have of yourself. And then we move on to success factors. We also move into making habits, and these are all parts of different courses that I teach. Making habits out of the things that other people refuse to do or are uncomfortable doing. And then there's, so towards the end of this, we'll summarize the whole thing, put it together in a package, and I think it's going to be some pretty exciting some coaching and training. And in the middle of all that, and the common thread throughout it will be the challenges and the things that people in this network marketing industry find difficult or hold, the things that hold them back, the challenges, the hurdles. And so I think it's really going to be something. And I'm really happy to be able to provide this to people within NUMIS, provide this training free of charge. Okay, so that's enough about that. I'm certainly looking forward to getting into tonight's chapter. So let's get things started by going.
Just for the record, Steve, sorry.
Yep.
I just wanted to thank you and tell you that I think that that's absolutely spectacular.
Oh, thanks, Don.
You're welcome.
Well, I have to give Don some credit as well. We've discussed this, and Don put a bug in my ear a long time ago about about changing my idea of how I'm move towards my passion or my purpose. And my purpose is to share this information and the information that I collect just as a result of being very interested in you know, in personal development and energy and those types of things. It's just intriguing to me, and I really get a you know, a huge charge out of people who have aha moments, you know, when I share the information that I've been lucky enough to stumble across. And you know, one of the challenges of this industry is making money while doing that. I think everyone in the industry, save for a few, would do this free of charge. But the problem is, you know, just because you're in this industry doesn't mean that you don't need to eat and you don't need to have a shelter over your head. So you need to be able to make money at doing this. And there are different ways of doing it. And Don is, you know, Don's really sort of put that seed, planted that seed with me. And as you know, there's an incubation period. But it's really sort of become clear to me that, you know, the more people I help with this, you know, the happier I'll be. And in fact, the law of reciprocation says that you will that will be returned to you, and it may not be returned to you in the way that you expect it, i.e., selling this for money, but it will show up in your life. So one of the things that I do know is that this information does help people, and it helps them to be more successful if they want to apply what you know, what's being shared with them. And my intention is to share this with people in my industry, and you know, just, and probably more importantly, make people within my team, Don's team, successful. And by virtue of that success, we're all successful. And I think that's just a fantastic idea. And you know, once the seed started to sprout, I began to talk to Don a little bit more about this, and as we spoke about it, it just made more and more sense. And luckily, I came across Numis, which is a network marketing company that unlike any I've ever seen before. And I think the combination of the two, and the willingness of the leaders in this company to embrace something like this, not that they know about it yet, but I know that Erwin is a leader in this company. He does know about this, but the owners of the company, I think, will really embrace what we're doing here. And as I go through it, I'll explain to you that it's just not going to be, you know, my creation, but a creation of leaders in this company from a network marketing perspective, but also very knowledgeable people in other industries such as communications, which Don has been in all his life, and he's got some fantastic ideas around how to really get people to listen to this message. So, Don, thank you, and I'm glad you provided me with the opportunity to, you know, to let everybody know that you know, this is going to be the culmination of a lot of people here, and really excited about it. So thank you. So I'm go ahead, Don.
I just said you're very welcome.
Okay, so let's get on with this with tonight. I'm looking forward to this. This is quite the chapter I found. You know, I'd always get to the end of this, and you know, a chapter named "How to Outwit the 6 Ghosts of Fear" is quite the title, but it's the content in the chapter is something else as well. So let's go right to the to page number 184 in the ebook, which is the beginning of that chapter, and it starts out by saying, take inventory of yourself as you read this closing chapter and find out how many of the ghosts are standing in your way. And then it goes on to say, before you can put any portion of this philosophy into successful use, your mind must be prepared to receive it. The preparation is not difficult. It begins with study, analysis, and understanding of 3 enemies, which you shall have to clear out. Now, I really want to acknowledge each and every one of you for studying and growing in the way that you have over the last 6 weeks. This is you know, really the easiest, hardest thing in the world to do. You're introduced to concepts that you may not have understood before, and once you know them, you can't, as I say, you can't unknow them, and so your comfort zone becomes a little bit less comforting for you. So what is important is that you have hopefully grown to believe and understand how these principles and universal laws that Hill has outlined in this book apply to your life. And you do that in between these webinars, and to understand how they apply to your life and govern the way that we think and behave, and how they ultimately control what we're able to attract in our lives. So, initially from the outside, that has been the goal of this webinar, is to pull those two things together: the concepts in the book and the application in your lives, in your daily lives. And Hill's statement from the first sentence in the chapter, where he says that your mind must be prepared to receive it, it takes me back to page number 33, where he says, the difference, or there is a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. We are hopefully all at the point where we recognize that potential is something that comes from within us, and it's not something that exists outside of us. Pardon me. It really comes from within, but most times people don't see it this way. Rather, they'll see potential in a job, potential in a position, or even potential in a relationship. And these things are great, but really the potential comes from within. And all of these things are just really opportunities for you to allow that potential that already exists within you to flow. And this journey that we're on, within this with this webinar, and with the opportunity that most of us are working with Numis. It really all began together. This journey that we've all begun together, starting with this webinar, and really with what we're doing with Numis, is really a process that also helps us to allow that abundance that exists within us to flow outwardly, and vice versa, really. And in order to be able to allow that abundance to flow, Napoleon Hill says that we must understand and clear out these three enemies of success, which on page 184 he identifies as indecision, doubt, and fear. And whenever someone is experiencing one of these things, it's due to a lack of purpose and a specific goal. This is why it's critical to define your purpose, your visions, and your vision and your goals. Now, Hill actually goes on to say that the members of this unholy trio are closely related. Where one is found, the other two are close at hand. Where one is found, the other two are close at hand. So let me ask you this. Do you believe that this is true? And if you believe that it's true, why, when one is found, the other two are close at hand? How do they lend themselves one another? So who would like to answer that?
I would, Steve, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
I think mainly because they feed off each other.
Okay, can you share a little bit more?
Well, it's just when doubt sets in, it just starts to clear everything positive out of the way and makes room for the fear. Well, the doubt really causes us to become undecisive or indecisive, whatever the proper word is.
Mm-hmm.
And those two combined really lead to the fear, and they just continue to grow. So they feed off one another and like have a tendency to grow exponentially.
It really doesn't matter which one shows up first.
No, it doesn't.
No. Where one exists, the other two are not far behind. Yeah, and you can really see. We talked a little bit about this earlier. You know, there's two intellectual faculties that are really at play here. One is reason, isn't it? You've got an idea or an opportunity, a concept, something that you should be acting on, and you start to reason with yourself, and you start to doubt whether or not it's such a good thing, which introduces indecision. And then you start pulling from your memory times when acting on something like this has led to the worst case scenario that you can play out in your imagination. So you've got a combination of all of your at least three of your intellectual faculties working together to really hold you back. It's something else. So thank you for that, Don. Anyone else want to comment on that? Well, that's great. So, whenever someone is experiencing one of these things, it's due to a lack of purpose. It really, really is. And, I can't emphasize that more. And, that's why one of the things that we'll be moving into in the weekly training is identifying your purpose, setting that point on the horizon for helping people to set that point on the horizon for themselves, and then to start building the vision around that, and also some goals. So there are many great points in this book. So why don't we move on to and turn to page number 185, if we could. And the last part of the second, last paragraph says, our thought impulses begin immediately to translate themselves into their physical equivalent, whether those thoughts are voluntary or involuntary. Thought impulses which are picked up through the ether by mere chance, thoughts which have been released by other minds, may determine one's financial, business, professional, or social destiny just as surely as do the thought impulses which one creates by intent and design. Now, I'd like to just note here that we pick up these thought impulses from all kinds of different sources. We pick them up from the radio, from television, from newspapers, from gossiping neighbors, people we're walking behind on the street. We often allow these outside sources to control our thinking. We begin to focus on the things that we don't want in our lives, and guess what? We're surprised when they show up. It's like this part, I really like this part because it lines up clearly with my purpose, and it reinforces the reasons for you to continue studying with people, in this kind of environment with this kind of group, like-minded people, especially because, we're now starting to get in sync and in harmony with one another, and it's a synergy that is created when people come together to learn about a common thing, a thing that each and every one of them are interested in. So really what we're doing here is we're building sort of a special bond and a special relationship. So let me ask you this now. Why do you think it's important to study this type of material within a group setting like this? What are the benefits specifically? I know we've talked a little bit more about them, but the more we talk about them, the more we identify the reasons why we should be in these in this type of training or in this type of environment. So anyone?
I can share something, Steve.
Yeah, please, David.
I think there's a concept or an idea out there, and I think it's quite valid, that if you have one person that thinks, feels, and acts a certain way, it's so powerful. And every time you add another person that's on a similar path in the same thought process, I think it's the building of a collective conscience that everybody is contributing to, that everybody benefits from, which is, I think, stems from the idea that we are all one to begin with. So I think it's the development of a collective conscious, and we're all here to contribute to the greater good of all. And the thing is that if we only have to do a little bit to have a big piece of everything, and that's as a group. I think that's the most powerful aspect of it.
Yeah, you hit on something very powerful there, and this is one of the things when I first, and I don't know why I don't do this anymore, but at the outset of I used to do this as a 10-week in-class book study, and we'd study one chapter a week. So I'm kind of hitting you guys hard with the homework and the chapters in the 6-week webinar, but this is an advanced class, I think. So I'm not feeling too bad about it. But one of the things I used to tell people is understand or try and figure out on your way to the class each week what you can give to the group. What can you give to the group? And don't worry about what you can take away from the group, because what'll happen is, if there are 10 people in that class that are going there with the express purpose of sharing as much of themselves with the group as they possibly can, what are you going to take away just by virtue of that happening? You're going to, it's going to be exponential. It's going to be huge what is there for you to take away, and you'll take it away just by sitting in the chair in that room with those people with that intent. So it is really huge. And when you bring two minds together, the power of an energy of those two minds coming together are exponential. It's not 1 times 2. It's you start bringing into the power. So it is really huge. So that's a great point, David. Thank you. Anyone else?
Steve, I can, if I may.
Sure, go ahead. And thanks for the musical accompaniment.
Am I Well, you're quite welcome. I came to this group wanting to give that tonight.
The music. Don comes with his own music. It's fantastic. And show tune music to be.
Well, it's my wife's studio is above my office, so I don't hear it anymore. To be honest with you,
I don't either, Don. I'm on the phone way too much with you.
not enough.
And not enough.
I think a couple of things come into play here, and one of them is program related for me. And when I speak of program, I'm talking about AA, where the gifts that we're often that we hold only become ours when we give them away. We get to keep them by giving them away. And when you're in a group setting and you're intentional about that, because of phrases like repetition is the key to learning, the more you give away and the more often you give it away, you get to own it. And another one is that all of us are smarter than any one of us. So those are elements that really kind of speak to me when it comes to spending time in group, where everybody's, if not quite like-minded, studying to become like-minded. Yeah, that's my 2 cents worth.
Very well put. Worth more than 2 cents, my friend. There's other reasons as well that, and I've talked about them almost every week, and that is, you cannot hear enough perspectives. You can't. When you've got a situation, the situation just is. It has no meaning. We give it its meaning, the situation, and we're in a society and we're interactive beings. And growth comes from seeing all angles of a situation. In my opinion, you can't hear enough perspectives of a situation, or the perceptions of a situation. And when you understand somebody else, and this is when you're talking about negotiations, it's really beneficial to understand where the other person is coming from, and when you're talking about trying to understand a situation, any situation, just pick one. When you can sit in the other person's shoes and look at that from their perception, you gain a totally you gain an understanding of that situation at a totally different level, and a more rounded and more balanced understanding of that situation. So that's another reason why I think getting into a group like this and studying an important book like any important book, but this one in particular, you get other perceptions, other perspectives of the topic that Hill is presenting in each of these chapters, and it just gives you it gives it to you at a whole different level. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have something, Steve.
Sure, go ahead, Rob.
Okay. One thing that popped, actually two things quickly, is that whenever working in a group like this, and one benefit is sometimes people can feel very alone or excluded if they're trying to build a business, and this type of group and masterminding kind of lets you know, hey, I'm not alone. I'm really part of a team here, and everybody wants to work together. Another benefit I think would be, and this is something that I've experienced from going to school online, is I would work on projects by myself and I would come up with information or ideas, but whenever I would work in a group, somebody would say something, and it's like, because of what was said within the group setting, it's like something would pop into my head that was absolutely genius. And I'm not saying I'm a genius, but it was just really cool. Or vice versa, it may pop because something I said or somebody else said, an idea may pop into another person's head, and they'll say, I don't know where this come from, but what does everybody think about this? And then the whole group is like, wow, and you may even have a confirmation, like somebody else may say, I thought the very same thing just now. So there's a mastermind situation that, in Think and Grow Rich, he talks about the third mind that's created. So like Don just, like you said, he hit it on the head when he said all of us put together are greater than by ourselves, and that's that's something I can second to that.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say.
That's fantastic. You may not be a genius, Rob, but you're an action hero. So, thank you for that. I think if we really look at it, some people might say, "Geez, that sounds really weird." But if you really look at at different situations that you've been in, where you've had a group working on one problem, you can probably look back to that situation and go, "Oh yeah, I remember." And it really is true. We're not making this up. A group of people working together on a problem is exponentially more powerful than a single person, and that's just the way it goes. And Hill talks about that in the book here. So thank you, everyone. That was fantastic. So let's move along. Let's further this along by having a look at page number 186, where it says the people of America began to think of poverty following the Wall Street crash of 1929. Slowly but surely, that mass thought was crystallized into its physical equivalent, which was known as a depression. This had to happen. It is in conformity with the laws of nature. Interesting. So for me, it really shows how important it is that you're surrounded by thought processes that are conducive to your own success and are aligned with your own prosperity consciousness. Mass thinking generally is not the same as the kind of thinking that exists within focus groups like the one that we're in here. I'm sure that you've heard that each and every one of us is a reflection of the 5 people that we are closest to. So it's important that every one of you who wants to do, and have more, that you intentionally seek out and surround yourselves with like-minded and supportive individuals. It's critical for your success. And I think it's so interesting that we're studying this book it's written 70 years ago, a book that sold more than 60 million copies, and really the current relevance of the paragraph that we just read is still so huge. So what do you guys think? What do you think he means by the term mass thought? And do you think that mass thought is playing a role in our current economic condition? According to what Hill states and how he describes the power of thought, this had to happen. So who wants to share?
I'll add 2 cents, Steve.
Sure, go ahead, David.
I think that society is quite famous for whether they're hidden or surface agendas, and is to create thought processes and patterns for people. And I think if you take a look at the similarities that's being delivered to our attention through the various media forms, whether it be internet, TV, radio, or whatever, the thing is that it's like it's there, and it keeps feeding. And then they say that what you feed the mind on a regular basis, like what you feed the body, is nurturing it to that degree. So if it's constantly being fed into the collective mindset, then the masses as a whole are thinking about it, they're talking about it, they're living it, they're sleeping it, and they're breathing it. So the thing is, it becomes essentially part of their being. And so I think that if you wake up and you talk about it or go through this process all day, and you listen to those things, and then you share them with other people, and you go to bed with that same process, we all know that thoughts are energy, and energy travels everywhere. So it becomes part of that collective mass thought process. And I think it's designed that way. There's people that understand it for the good, and there's people that understand it for not good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, you've taken part of what you were taking is marketing, right? Social marketing.
Yes, that's right.
So, I mean, maybe you can comment a little bit on that. This is well understood by people who are making the most money in the marketing industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of it too. There's an incredible amount of data that's compiled. I mean, they're watching everything. Part of the big thing that they do is they call listening online, and part of that listening is numbers. So if they really that I hope maybe that's kind of going along with what we're doing, but they definitely analyze the numbers, and they know exactly where you're going, and what you're looking at, and how to analyze that to better target you with the information. And a lot of people don't even realize privacy issues goes along with it as well. Facebook is real huge on collecting data based on the information that you provide on your profile, and then you see the little ads on the side. Those are heavily targeted, specific to you to catch your interest. They're not random ads. They are specifically targeted to you based on your activity on Facebook. So that's just one example of how they really analyze that.
Yeah.
And that it's very psychological. They know what you like, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, and to your point, David, I think that it is it is engineered, and I think it's been engineered for quite some time, and it's been engineered by people who understand and probably have read this book. It really is a it becomes part of the collective fiber of our being, and it's mass thought is very important, and just as the mastermind is important, when you get a group of people vibrating at a certain level, there's a tsunami of activity towards that thing that they're focused on, and it just exacerbates it. It gets bigger and bigger, and we've seen how that happens with some of these countries that are falling in these dictatorships that are falling in the over in the other parts of the country, other parts of the world. So it really does play a big role. So thank you for everyone.
Steve,
Yes.
I'm not sure if you covered this, but probably you have, and maybe I missed it. But there's a whole manifestation formula where that basically stipulates what you think determines how you feel determines how you act determines your results. So if you can imagine the energy behind, mass thought, you're going to manifest more rapidly. So a lot of people believe that the internet today is, a representation of our collective consciousness. So I think there's a lot to be said around, controlling your thoughts and recognizing that, if you can manipulate the thoughts of others, you can move, the consciousness however you want to.
Absolutely.
So media plays a huge role in that for sure, for many people.
A huge role. And if you've been, and I know Mary, you've been, you've heard what I teach, and I've heard what you teach, and we're on a similar front for sure. And one of the things that I say, and I've said it in this webinar, maybe last week, I think, if people come up to me and say, what's the one thing I should do to start thinking differently, and I say, turn off CNN. Turn off the news stations. They're master manipulation, and I don't want to go into going any deeper than that, but if you want to start thinking more productively and thinking more on your own, you need to turn off those those influences that are there to manipulate your thoughts. It's a very simple concept and hugely powerful, as you said, Mary. Hugely powerful. So
Hey,
thank
Steve?
you. Yeah, go ahead, Don.
I just come up, like how you work with acronyms.
Mm-hmm.
My acronym for news is nothing ever worth seeing.
That's good.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with that as well. Yeah, that is something else. That's the first time I've heard that, Don. Keep sharing your acronyms, please. And don't mind if I use that one.
Thank you. It's out there. I came wanting to give that tonight.
Excellent. Well, we're all receiving, and we're all better off for it. Thank you.
And
This is my favorite part of this course.
and see, just like network marketing, there's residual effect.
You got it. Absolutely. It's a pyramid scheme. Yeah. So, I think the question now becomes like what, and we were talking a little bit about this, but, the question now becomes, what's the answer? How can we deal with this mass thinking? And over on page number 186, there's a sentence that indicates the first step. And Hill states here that if you want riches, you must refuse to accept any circumstance that leads towards poverty. And the word riches here is used in its broadest sense, meaning, financial, spiritual, mental, and material estates. This statement defines the ownership of our ability to accept, neglect, or reject any thought we choose to in our conscious mind. If you recall the stick person slides, we've been given free will to choose, and you know what? I think we probably should just go ahead and exercise that free will. Turn off the CNN, question the things that you're hearing from from that gossipy neighbor. Now, you already know that this is what we talked. You already know this, and we talked about this last week. So now it really is about training yourself to think in this way regularly and repeatedly. To me, Hill makes it very clear that, once again, it's our responsibility to choose to accept or reject our circumstances. It's our responsibility to either allow those circumstances to dominate our thinking or not. It's a choice. This is elaborated on page 208. And don't miss what Hill is saying here. This is huge. He tells us that mind control is the result of self-discipline and habit. You either control your mind or it controls you. There's no halfway compromise. the most practical of all methods for controlling the mind is the habit of keeping it busy with definite purpose backed by a definite plan. Study the records of any person who achieves noteworthy success, and you will observe that they have control over their own mind. Moreover, that they exercise that control and direct it towards the attainment of definite objectives. Without this control, success is not possible. Lot said there. So what's he telling us in this quote? That it's critical to create self-discipline. And really, there are only two ways to change one's conditioning or habits. One is through an emotional or a shocking experience, and the other is through spaced repetition and study. But a lot of people really are in the habit of making excuses or listing plenty of reasons why things cannot happen in their lives. In fact, Napoleon Hill does a great job of actually listing 57 famous alibis, the Heinz 57 alibis, right here in this book. This list really represents the excuses people commonly use, throughout their lives. And the only thing worse than an excuse is a good excuse. And I think some of the best excuses show up on this list. And you should really examine it carefully and see if any of these are familiar to you. And if they are, ask yourself if excuses are stopping you from living into your greater potential. Continue to examine this honestly. Keep this list handy because, I found a shocking number of familiar excuses when I first read this, and I still find a shocking amount of excuses that are familiar. So it's something that you need to continue to work on, and I would recommend and that you journal about it nightly. Continue to examine this honestly and journal about it nightly. It should be part of your journaling practice. You'll get to the point where you begin to notice when you're making excuses. And it's all good. Don't run your head into a low-hanging beam about it. Just notice that it's occurring and begin to tell the truth about it. Be honest with yourself. You see, we're really only here for a short time, and a lot of people are waiting for something to happen. They're waiting to get somewhere. They're waiting to do something, or they're waiting to have something, and then they'll start living their lives. We don't have anyone like that, I don't think, on tonight's call, do we? But when we'd like to. What I'd like to do is to request that you continue with your training, whether it's with me or with someone else, and live your life right here and right now. Stay in this conversation. Don't wait for things to change before you begin to change. It'll never work that way. You need to make a decision right now that this is going to be something that you continue to do. And I think we have, I know that we definitely have those types of people on this call tonight. And I think this conversation leads us nicely to the last paragraphs of the book on page 212, where it says, "In parting, I would like to remind you that life is a checkerboard, and the player opposite you is time. If you hesitate before moving or neglect to move promptly, your men will be wiped off the board by time. You are playing against a partner who will not tolerate indecision. Previously, you may have had a logical excuse for not having forced life to come through with whatever you asked, but that alibi is now obsolete because you are in possession of the master key that unlocks the door of life's bountiful riches. The master key is intangible, but it is powerful. It is the privilege of creating in your own mind a burning desire for a definite form of riches. There is no penalty for the use of the key, but there is a price you must pay if you do not use it. The price is failure. There is a reward of stupendous proportions if you put the key to use. It is the satisfaction that comes to all who conquer self and force life to pay whatever is asked. The reward is worthy of your effort. Will you make the start and be convinced? If we are related, said the immortal Emerson, we shall meet. In closing, may I borrow this thought and say, if we are related, we have through these pages met. The end. So now that we have officially ended this study and you have seen what you have seen, what are we going to do with it? I'll open up the lines and see what people have to say about that.
Steve,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to change the last 2 words of this book.
Okay.
From the end to the beginning.
There you go.
Really, that would make more sense.
Let me show you my next slide, Don. I second that motion.
There we go.
There you go.
Just so that it's public, I love you, Steve Lundy.
People are going to get the wrong impression there, Don.
I don't care. That's their stuff to wrestle with. I know what my intention is.
Yeah, I love you too, Steve Lundy.
Hey, thanks, superhero.
Thanks, Rob.
I love you, Don.
I love you too, brother.
That's what these things turn into.
Yeah, I love all you guys.
Love you, David.
And Mary. And Felipe.
Mary. And Felipe.
I love you, John Boy and Mary Ellen.
Mary's showing her age.
And I can't believe how fast you created this slide that Don just saw it. Okay, this is
That was pretty quick, wasn't it?
You're good.
Well, I have thousands of slides at the ready, depending on the way that the conversation goes. So, this is, that's a great, thank you for all of that. And, this is the end of the book, but hopefully it's just the beginning of everyone's journey. And I offer that you guys continue with this training with me as I move this training into an ongoing resource for you guys and your teams to benefit from. So I'll be working, with leaders like Don, who's on the call tonight, Don LaChance, and Erwin McKen, and other people who are successful in this industry, to make sure that this training is everything that it can be for the specific purpose of being successful, in this company or whatever company you choose to be working in, from a network marketing perspective. And there are some good ones. It has been, it's really been my pleasure and it's been my honor to have guided you incredible people through this study. And really, this is a book that has changed lives. It's changed the lives of millions of people all over the world. And I have a blast sharing this with whoever wants to listen to what I have to say about it. So, I really thank each and every one of you, and for your input and your sharing and your feedback. All of it incredible, and it just makes these webinars that much more powerful. And I encourage each of you to continue your study, like I said, with me or with one of the other teachers who share who are sharing their knowledge as well, their knowledge and the information that they have at their disposal. And chase your dreams and conquer these 3 enemies: fear, doubt, and indecision. Now, before I wrap up, I'd like to share one more concept with you that contains tremendous power and transforms results. Would that be okay with everyone? Absolutely. All right. Well, this won't be long, but it's very, very powerful. And as I was going through it today, this is a training that I think each and every one of you need to be able to present to your downlines, because it's just that it's that powerful and brings that much clarity to how these universal laws really work. And this concept can be applied to any good that you desire, but for the purpose of our conversation, we're we're going to apply it to the idea of moving into, that weekly training that I'll be making available to all of you and your teams. So it's called levels of vibration, and I'm convinced that the hard part in life is not getting what you want. The difficulty surrounds 3 decisions. A, deciding what you want. B, deciding what you will give or give up to get it. And this is the law of sacrifice, and it states that we must be willing to give or give up something of lesser value in order to gain something of greater value. And thirdly, or C, deciding that you and you alone are responsible for numbers 1 and 2. So have a look at it this way. I'd like you to think of these lines here on the screen, if they're on your screen right now. I'd like you to think of these lines as levels of vibration. Like we have frequencies on a radio, or even thought waves are frequencies. These lines, and that's what these represent. These lines represent these frequencies. You might want to even draw this out for yourself on a piece of paper, and just put 10 or 15 lines on a sheet of paper. Or if you're working out, working on line paper, you can use the existing lines to represent these frequencies of vibration. But recognizing that there are millions of frequency levels in between the lines, above and below the lines. And it'd be impossible with the technology I'm using to represent it accurately here. But let's understand that there are millions of these lines, and they blend into one another. There's no line of delineation. Now draw the capital letter R in the bottom left-hand corner, like you see on the screen. What's happening right now is that the frequency that you are operating on right now is producing your results. It's producing the results that you're seeing. And I'd like you to recognize that what has produced these results, although it would be easier for, easy, and people do blame outside conditions and circumstances or other people. They blame the economy or the interest rates or gas prices, whatever they choose, your relatives, your spouse, and it's easy to do that. But what I'm going to do here is, and what I'd like you to do, is draw these puffy clouds beside your R, or your results. Now, each of these puffy clouds represents your thoughts, because you're thinking at a certain frequency. Thought waves are cosmic waves. They're the most powerful and potent electrical wave there is. They travel through time and space. You could have a loved one in Paris, France, and they could be walking down the street, the Champs-Élysées, and you could be walking in the Byward Market, and you get a feeling to maybe call them. And when you call them, they say, you know what, I was just thinking about you today. Now, we often laugh at that, and we call it a coincidence, but it's not. It's an exact law. It's the law of vibration and the law of attraction. You were both on the same frequency, thinking the same thought. Your thoughts resonated, and it triggered something inside of you, and you picked it up intuitively and thought that you should maybe call that person. Well, the same thing is happening with your results right now. What you're experiencing right now is the result of your best thinking. Now, if these things aren't, if things aren't generally going well for you as well as you'd like, that doesn't mean that you're waking up each morning and saying to yourself, I'm going to make some of the worst decisions I can for my life right now or today. For me, I don't think that anybody does that, and I don't think that anyone on this call has done that. Now, you're really making your best decisions or using your best thinking, and it's your best thinking that has produced the results that you've gotten up till now. Now, draw a star up in the top right-hand corner. Let's let the star represent what it is that you truly want for your life. This is your purpose, your goal, the thing that you're striving for, the thing that makes you get out of bed in the morning. Now, the only way that you're going to get what you want or get to the star is that you're going to have to begin to think the ideas that would produce what you want. You want to begin to think about, think thoughts that are in resonance or in that same level of frequency as the things that you want. Because right now, the ideas that you're holding or creating or thinking are the ideas that are producing the results that you're getting right now, down on that bottom line beside the R. You're going to have to think at a completely different frequency. You're going to have to shift your vibration. And we're going to have to shift this. We're going to have to shift to this frequency where the star is. So let's look at this R as the AM frequency, and the star or your goal as the FM frequency. Now, there's no way that you're going to be able to hear the information or music that's being broadcast on the FM frequency as long as you're dialed into that AM frequency. Does that make sense for everybody? Now, the first step for you to move up these levels of frequency is to make a decision to move from this R up to this star. What you'll have to now decide is whether you're able and willing to do that. I'm going to go ahead and answer that, the first part of that for you. You're all absolutely able. The reason I know this is because every single one of us has infinite untapped potential. But you see, the only way that this can happen is that you make the decision that you're willing to do it. See, in my experience, it's been my experience that most people say that they would be willing to do anything that is necessary to go from the R to the star. They're willing to do absolutely anything that is necessary, except what is necessary. We say that we're willing to do whatever it is, but when the time comes for us to do it, we fail to make all the decisions that are necessary to do. And what will end up happening is that these clouds are going to represent the new ideas and the new thought processes that you're going to be having. It's these thought processes that are going to produce the new results, the star. And here's what often happens, though. Here's the pitfall that a lot of people fall into. They say that I'm going to make the decision to go to the star when things down here near the R begin to change. They say I'm going to make a decision to invest in myself or my future, or I'm going to make a decision to act on this opportunity when my results improve. What do you mean you're going to wait to change? You're going to wait for what? For when the time is right? I'm going to tell you that the time is never going to be right. There's never going to be a time when every condition and circumstance is going to be ready for you to make a decision to change. We've been conditioned to play it safe. You know, better safe than sorry. Who's heard that? You don't want to take a risk. But we're born risk takers. Watch any baby trying to learn how to walk. I mean, I'm sure that you've had to take a whole lot of risks just to get where you are right now, haven't you? And it's the same process. If we're waiting for conditions or circumstances to change, if we have to be 100% sure before we make a decision, and a good friend of mine told me it's like waiting until every single light on your route to work is green before you ever back out of the driveway. It's just never going to happen. It's never going to be a straight shot. There's going to be bumps in the road, but you've probably faced bumps on the road just to get where you are right now. It's when we begin to see new possibilities. We're going to flip the switches in our minds. More specifically, we'll flip the switch in our imagination. When we build ideas that we are currently not thinking of. In my weekly training, this is the training that we're creating right now. I'm not looking to get you to a level just above the highest level that you've attained so far. What I want to do is not get you thinking is to get you thinking about far bigger and better results. I want to help you to build ideas that are in alignment with the bigger things that you want in your life, the things that you really want in your life. I want you thinking not slight increase over your current results, but rather thinking on a level of the thing that you ultimately want. Before long, you will start thinking this way, and when you do, something magical happens. Once you start thinking this way, you start feeling this way, and as Mary said, and when you start feeling this way, you start to behave that way. And it's not something that you're pushing, you're being pulled. And it's the composite of our thoughts and our feelings and our actions that produce the results that we get in our life. So what I'd like to do is see all of us move through this weekly training together. And I want you to express the importance of this training to your present and your future team. This is something that down the road I want people to be flocking to our team because we provide this training. Because we're there to support each other, because we've built this community of people that support each other and are thinking about what we're thinking. So I think that we've laid some great foundational work for the next step, and what we need to do is replicate this self-improvement decision that we've all made down through our team. This has to be part of that. Of that duplication that you share with the people that you bring into Numis or whatever your network marketing company is. And if you do, they will be more successful, and through them, you as well. So, and just some details. It's going to be a weekly 1/2 hour of powerful training and another 1/2 hour or less of discussion and answers. So it's going to be a shorter, more succinct training, and as I said at the beginning, I might share 7 to 10 core concepts in each of the webinars, 2-hour webinars. We're really going to be diving into each one of those each week. So it'll give me a little bit more opportunity to pull these apart, and you a whole lot more opportunity to ask questions and to share and to bring your insight to the conversation. So I want this program to help to bridge the gap that lies between what you should be doing and what you're actually doing. That's really the goal of the training that I want to put together, with the help of good people like Dawn and Erwin and whoever else wants to join us. So you'll be guided through the whole program, because this is not just a passive listening program. This is a learning system, and it's curriculum based. And we're going to shift your conscious thinking. That over the last 6,000 years of recorded history, all the greatest thinkers and teachers, they've all agreed that you ultimately become what you think about. So if you're going to change the results that you're getting in your life, you have to change your thinking. So we have to flip that switch and to a completely different thought frequency. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. So stay tuned for the launch of the weekly training, and get your teams pumped up as well to attend. And I think the results that we'll get, they'll be felt right across the company. And I want nothing more than to see everyone on this call and everyone on their teams and on my team to be hugely successful in this business and help as many other people as possible. So on that note, that's the end of our 6-week webinar, and from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank everybody for participating, and I've taken away from this webinar just as much as you have, hopefully. And if you've taken away as much as I have, then my job here has been successful. So thank you.
Well, Steve, on behalf of myself and I'm sure all of the team members who have decided to take part in this, I just want to send you just a very sincere and deep welcome. This has really been a really good process, and I'm looking forward to encouraging as many people as I can to get on the wagon here and experience some of the greatness that you have to share. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Don. Thank you for that. Well, on that note, I will sign off, and hope to see you on the morning calls. But if you're not on those morning calls, and I certainly hope to see you on the upcoming training. So good night,
Thanks
everyone.
very much, Steve. It's been awesome.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.